Deputy Joan Burton has been given permission to raise the need to provide adequate primary and secondary level schools for Tyrellstown, Dublin 15. Deputy Burton has 5 minutes.
Thank you, Alaska Hirla. Tyrellstown in Dublin 15 is a vibrant community of over 2,000 houses and apartments built over the last 8 to 10 years. It now has a population in excess of 5,000, many of whom are children. Many people will only have heard of Tyrellstown as a consequence of the recent tragic killing of one of its young residents, Toyosi Shitabi, a 15-year-old born in Nigeria, brought up in Ireland, who was a promising footballer and athlete. For the last 8 years, successive Fianna Fáil ministers for education have promised that huge new developments like Tyrellstown would get primary and secondary schools. After 7 years, just in January, a permanent site for 2 primary schools was acquired for over 4 million. This is post the crash, for a 6 to 7 acre site for Tyrellstown Educate Together and Mulhuthard National Schools. I want to ask the Minister when the permanent buildings for these primary schools will actually be built. Both of these fine primary schools are in many ways the soul of their communities. For students to have to continue going to school in temporary buildings and for the Department of Education to continue paying for these temporary buildings is surely a false economy. The community urgently needs a permanent secondary school building as well. At second level, the Department of Education doesn't seem to even have considered providing a new secondary school, even though there are now some 150 12 and 13-year-olds coming out of primary schools in the area every year with no local secondary school to go to. Instead, they are being dispersed widely across Dublin 15 and Dublin 7. Tyrellstown is a fine multicultural community and it is in shock about the killing of Toyosi. The lack of a second level school means that pupils who have been educated together in their local primary schools at primary level are then dispersed when they go to secondary school. At a time when integration is really important, it is an appalling commentary on the government and the Department of Education that this community has no permanent primary school, no permanent secondary school, no permanent community facility and no playing fields. This is in a community with kids who are soccer mad and GAA mad, as I'm sure the Minister can imagine. If we want a genuinely integrated community of Irish people and new Irish people, educating children of diverse backgrounds together is of critical importance. Facilitating those children growing up and playing sport together is the best way of ensuring integration for children and their parents now and in the future. A secondary school with a gym, a sports hall and playing fields is taken for granted, even in much smaller communities. I want to ask the Minister, when is Tyrellstown going to get the resources it needs and deserves? Ireland was shocked by the death of Toyosi. There was a huge outpouring of sympathy for the family and his friends. We have GAA and other sports clubs and organisations working on the ground but with no permanent facilities. Many people in Tyrellstown bought their houses at the height of the Celtic Tiger and are paying down huge mortgages as well as paying their taxes. They deserve to see their tax euros spent on the much needed facilities for their children at primary and secondary school. Millions in development levies were paid for by people who bought their houses in Tyrellstown, and yet this government cannot provide the basic community facilities that these levies were supposed to fund. I would like the Minister to set out now a clear timetable for the construction of the primary and the secondary schools. I see no reason why work can't commence on the primary schools this year and on why the Minister can't take the necessary steps to acquire a site for a secondary school and associated playing fields immediately. The secondary school could be started on a temporary basis in the vacated prefab primary schools, while the permanent secondary school school is being built. You know, there was many government ministers expressed regret, including your colleague, the Minister for Integration, Deputy White, in relation to the death of Tyrellstown, expressed sympathy for the community. I think those expressions were well meant. But how can you have a community of more than 2,000 houses, more than 5,000 people built up over the last 10 years with no permanent facilities and no opportunity for children at secondary level to stay at school together, and in particular to play sport and have recreation and play together, particularly in their teenage years? It is not a recipe for integration.